Bill?
I believe so.
Let's wait about 2 more minutes. I thought a couple people from the Youngstown office. Good morning, everyone. It's great to actually be able to see people, albeit on Ring Central. Hope everyone's and your families are staying healthy through the pandemic. And thank you for joining us. This is the third of a series of these Ring Central meetings that we've had, and the impetus behind this is there's a lot of parts in play out there. We were getting a lot of repetitive questions from clients all over the state. This idea was kind of given birth by the Toledo office. They were the ones who thought up this forum. So thanks for getting creative in these times. But I'm going to start with it. The state's almost in a anti-stimulus mode right now. We failed to pass a capital bill. We failed to pass a reappropriation bill. We had to cut $866 million out of the April state operating budget to balance. And as you might imagine, with nobody going anywhere, gas tax revenues are coming in way below estimates, which ODOT's already deferred some major new projects. It's going to affect the local transportation improvement program down the road, and it's also going to affect local governments' direct distribution. Although I don't think they're going to see that a whole lot with the increase in the gas tax. They'll probably be pretty flat from where they were from their last distribution. But I'm going to start with the implications of lack of a capital bill, the impact it had on the state capital improvement program. Round 34 is processed, ready to go. I know that from past experience. So until we get a capital bill, those projects are not going to be sent out to local governments. They've also released guidance not to solicit applications for round 35 until they get capital appropriation. It's kind of tricky because they cannot emergency clause capital appropriation until the fog lifts. I do not anticipate a capital bill when we do get one. I think it's going to be less robust than what everybody expected. So we've lost a lot of community projects and 2 rounds of state capital improvement program grant dollars, which that's about $400 million. We usually leverage $1 for $1, so that's about an $800 million hit to the industry. So we'll see what happens. My hope is they get a capital bill passed at the end of the General Assembly with the inability to emergency clause that if we do get that appropriation, that's going to push round 34 at the soonest probably into next March or April, and feasibly round 35 in July. So if things work out, we're going to push 2 construction seasons into one. I'm not sure what that's going to do. The bidding environment, bids few projects I'm involved in, bids seem to be coming in pretty good to date. The other impact that had is the small government programs projects have all been scored out. They have delayed government committee meeting until we have capital appropriation. Should we get it, the Small Government Commission, having all the work done, will be able to move in a nimble fashion and get those projects out. The lack of a capital bill also is going to have the revolving loan program is appropriated in that bill, and the Clean Ohio program as well. And the NRACs have been instructed not to solicit applications, as well as the district integrating committees. So everything seems to be on hold on that front. The reappropriation bill reappropriates for the state capital improvement program, the revolving loan program, and Clean Ohio program. The state's accounting system usually, and this is going to have an impact on existing projects. The state's accounting system usually shuts down around June 12th. In the absence of a reappropriation bill, we're going to have difficulty moving money. So I'm encouraging everybody, if you have partial pay estimates laying around, get those to the Public Works Commission by the end of May. If you can do that, you'll get paid. I guess on the bright side, you can put an emergency clause on the reappropriation bill. I've talked with several members of the General Assembly. They feel that bill will be passed with an emergency clause by the end of June. So they should be up and running, moving money first week of July. The local transportation improvement program is a little bit of a different program. It was appropriated and included the reappropriation and the recently passed state transportation bill. So those projects will be released on July 1. And it is not in need of having existing projects reappropriated. So that's in good shape. The ability to emergency clause reappropriation, that's not subject to referendum like new appropriation is. I'm feeling optimistic with those two components. The Public Works Commission also deferred everybody's July loan payments. You can make a double payment in January, or make your normal payment and just skip July, which was a nice gesture. Local governments in the same boat that state government's in right now. I guess the downside on that is with the loan deferment, that's what seeds the revolving loan program. So I'm looking for a marginal decrease on the revolving loan program as a result of the loan deferment. So with that, I'll take any questions that you may have, or you can hold them till the end. All right, I'll turn it over to you, Danielle.
Awesome. And I'm going to go through a couple different programs. And if you have questions, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask them at that time. That way we can keep it conversational. We don't necessarily want this to just be talking heads. We want it to be a conversation as much as it can. So I took a look at some of the local institutions and some of the state programs, as well as some of the federal programs, and try to give you an overview of what we know right now. Now, that could be obsolete by this afternoon. Things are changing pretty quickly, and we'll try to keep you as updated as we can. So I looked at OKI, and as far as we know, the STBG, the STP, and the transportation alternatives, those are still due in June 6th. Right now they typically have a call for applications workshop. That PowerPoint is available on their website for download. So if you have some questions, they always do a really nice job of walking through all of the eligibility requirements and what's going to score well and things like that. So go ahead and go to their website for that. I also looked, because I know we have some folks from Franklin here, I looked at MVRPC. That one, I downloaded their FAST Act program policies and procedures. That was a document from last year. It appears that the STP, CMAQ, and TA are all due in September. So they didn't have anything on their website that they would be altering that. So I would be, still hopeful that some of those projects might be having some funding available in September. I'm sorry, I lied to you. It opens in September 9th. It's due October 9th. I apologize for that. ODNR, I'll move into some of the state programs now. ODNR did postpone taking applications for the NatureWorks program. That will be rolled into next year. Now, the last time I looked at their website, they said that the Land and Water Conservation Fund would still be available. But when I went in this morning to double check that, they said on their website, our website is currently inaccessible. We are working to get everything back up and running as soon as possible. Thank you for your patience. So I'm not quite sure what that means. But with NatureWorks, I'm hoping that they will roll the appropriation from this year, whatever was allocated to it, into next year. And maybe that might mean a little bit more funding availability next year. I know that's what they typically do with counties that have no applications. They'll roll that into the next year's funding, and it'll just bump that total up that's available. So I'm hoping something similar like that will happen. We don't know for sure. EPA, the water loans, I don't know if anybody here is got any water loans, but those were awarded and those are still going to be moving forward. Nothing has changed with those. But the Water Pollution Control Loan Fund, the WPCLF, and the partner program, Water Restoration Sponsorship Program, the WRSP program, those two are still on track as far as we know. They are saying it might affect next year's funding levels, all the gyrations with the budget, and the governor is saying, at least he said once in the past, that all departments would be cutting their budgets by 20%. He was encouraging that. So we're going to see some changes. It's going to be, like Mike said, I'll borrow your phrase, a little less robust, but hopefully things will still be in place. WPCLF will be important for you guys because it also does stormwater. I know a lot of the metro area is on a municipal system that you guys don't control, but the stormwater, you can still apply for that. So if you have drainage issues and those kinds of things, hopefully we can still submit those this fall. Those programs are actually bonded. So they, for the WPCLF program, they have what's called a program management plan. And they take nominations. So I said application, but what it really is a nomination, and you put it together and you get on this program management plan. there's no downside to nominating a project and then not following through with it because it's bonded. If you pull your application, it's no harm, no foul. It's not like you have money to give back or things like that. But it could potentially be beneficial. What we're seeing is any projects, I really dislike the phrase shovel ready because I think it carries some baggage with it. But I'll use it in the context today of projects that are included on planning documents, projects that have been thought through and have consensus in the local and the regional plans. Those are the ones that seem to get picked. So if there's stimulus money available and you have a project on the project management plan, you might actually get some funding that way. So talk with the engineers, see what is feasible for your community and that. But I would strongly encourage you to consider making a nomination to the WPCLF program. EDA has just announced that it's been kind of the big news lately. We're all trying to get our minds around what's going on with EDA. They had $1.5 billion from the original CARES Act, and they just announced what they were going to do with that. Now, in my reading, what I see as most relevant for you guys is the capitalization and recapitalization of revolving loan funds. You can use the money for that. And also, we've known EDA for a long time. You could do construction of infrastructure as long as it was associated with an economic development project. They're very driven by job retention and job recruitment. So that is still the same, but they are putting some more money into that. So if you have a project that needs to move forward and some of the other funding has fallen through, you might want to look at EDA if there's a job creation or retention component to that. That is about a 50% funding match. So it's a half off coupon. For those of you who have heard my coupon strategy, I say grants are a lot like going to the grocery store. When you have a coupon, you're going to do one of probably three things. You're either going to buy the same thing that you were always going to buy for less money. You're going to buy more of what you were going to buy for the same money. Or occasionally you're going to try something new that you might not have tried if there wasn't some sort of a discount. So when I say a coupon, that's kind of the idea that I carry forward to these grant programs. So the EDA program, though, to get that 50% off coupon, your project needs to be included on the CEDS, which is Community Economic Development Strategy. So you're going to see a recurring theme here. This is the planning document for EDA, as much as the PMP is for EPA, the CEDS is for EDA. And you want to make sure those are done on a cyclic basis. For Hamilton County, the last one I think I saw was 2019 or 17. So they can take amendments, and I would encourage you to talk with folks about that. But the next planning process, you're going to want to pay attention to that because you want to get your projects in there. You want to get them prioritized on that. So that's enough about EDA. If you do have questions, though, there's a lot of information out there. If you have questions, please let us know. USDA still has some money available. That's more for rural communities. I'm not sure that it really applies to the folks that are on the call today, but there are some updates on that. And then the Community Development Block Grant, the CDBG program. The non-entitlements run through the state of Ohio, but a lot of the communities that are on today are in entitlement counties, meaning the counties themselves get money directly from HUD. They don't go through a pass-through like the state. There is an additional $37 million coming for homelessness prevention and support, senior services, and then public health services. So, I don't know what each CDBG department is going to be doing with all of that, but I would encourage anyone who has looked at CDBG funding in the past to go ahead and look at it now, because you may be able to access some funds for some programs that you need. OWDA, I don't think anybody has a water program that we need to worry about. Are there any questions? I've kind of gone through a laundry list pretty fast.
I might add the EDA program. We were just given details on that excuse me, 2 days ago. So as Danielle mentioned, we're all trying to wrap our minds around that and see how we can best use that. I guess the NatureWorks as well as the Clean Ohio Trail program are also victims of lack of a capital bill, which is why they're deferring on their time schedules right now. I'm not sure how far Blue Ash Office sprawls out, but I just wanted to mention that the Appalachian Regional Commission is up and running without any hiccups. So if you're looking to leverage ARC dollars, that program's alive and well.
It's true. We do have some clients that are east of the Hamilton County. So some of those do have access to the ARC. Mostly, I don't think Claremont does, but Hamilton doesn't. And then Butler, Warren, none of those do. So unfortunately.
Yeah, Claremont's why I brought that up.
Well, and our friends out in Adams County, they are good friends with OVRDC, which is the MPO out there. And they administer the ARC program for them. They're hyper aware of what's available through ARC. So they weren't able to be on today. So any other questions? Mike, you brought up about the Clean Ohio Trails. If there's any confusion, there are actually two Clean Ohio programs. There's the OPWC Clean Ohio Green Space, and then there's the Clean Ohio Trails through ODNR. And Mike's right, Clean Ohio Trails through ODNR is also a state-funded one. So those applications aren't due until next February. The REC Trails, which is federal highway money, and the Clean Ohio Trails. REC Trails is a maximum $150,000 grant, and it's an 80-20 match. Clean Ohio Trails is a 75-25 match, but it's state money. I don't know what's going to happen with either of those programs, but I do think that the state budget, when we do see it finally passed, I'm going to be looking to see what the appropriation is for those trails. Because of the strong history of trails in Southwest, I would hope that they would still have that. Some of the reading that I've done has indicated a real spike in trail usage. And with the wonderful system that's down there, I would imagine specifically, well, some of the reading I did was on MVRPC, and they're seeing some record highs. So I'm hoping that the trail funding still stays intact. But like everything else, I think it's going to be somewhat reduced, which increases competitiveness, which, again, to beat a dead horse, makes it all the more important that your projects are included in local and regional plans, that they're prioritized, that everybody knows about them.
I might add there's a third component when Clean Ohio was created. There were actually four components, one being the Brownfield Revitalization Program, which kind of was put out of business. They issued revenue bonds, and when the state securitized its liquor proceed revenue stream, there was no way to service debt, so that one out of business, for lack of a better term. And then the other one is, which is a victim of the capital bill again, is the ag program, which is administered by the Department of Agriculture.
Have we thoroughly confused everyone with our acronyms and our different programs that are called the same thing but really aren't?
Feel free to call with any question. Something pops up. We're monitoring monitoring this on a daily basis and trying to keep track of all the moving pieces.
And we're trying to keep our client contacts supplied with the latest information. So if you have questions, reach out to them right away. And if they don't know, we'll find out. You know, things are changing lightning speed. I was talking with someone else this morning, said I'm getting emails in the morning announcing webinars that very same afternoon on updates to different programs. So we're doing our best, and we'll try to get information out to you via email as much as we can. But if something changes in the meantime, definitely reach out.
And if you'll allow me to gossip real quick, the little we're hearing as far as federal stimulus for infrastructure, I'm not expecting to see anything until after the November election. I think Congress kind of has spending fatigue right now, battling the pandemic. So, that's the little I've heard. The only other item, which this came from ACEC's lobbyists, is the current dialogue on Capitol Hill isn't necessarily shovel ready. They're looking for sustainable recovery. We have our normal partners in crime, contractors, planning organizations that are all kind of trying to relay the same message to their respective congressional delegations. And they're acknowledging, the goal's not to just spend money, but let's get productive, useful infrastructure to our constituents. They're also acknowledging some of these projects haven't begun design, and they will take, some of them take 2 years, 3 years to build. So that's kind of the logic behind that as it was explained to me.
I'm glad you said that, Mike. I really think that with the way things are, I think nimbleness, the ability to flex and change direction as needed, that's going to be a key ingredient from now on out, and being able to think ahead and forecast things to the best of your ability, so that when these funding programs either pop up or go away, you have the ability to flex with them. So I gave a talk, I think it was 2 weeks ago now, and I talk about the importance of marrying your capital plan with your funding plan, and understanding that the competitive environment was pretty strong before. Now it's going to be even more so, because more people are searching pockets of funders that have less money. So, thinking 2, 3, 5 years out, putting together a capital plan that says, hey, I'm going to go after this funding source, and if I don't get it, am I going to submit it the next round, or am I going to put something else in its place? Understanding the difference between the projects that absolutely must go forward no matter what, and if there's no funding available from them, then trying to look at other projects where you might be able to obtain funding so you can shift some funds back to those. That's going to be the hallmark. I know it's been done now, for forever, but it's even more important now than it has been.
I think Scott may have a question. Scott, do you have a question?
I do. I wanted to follow up with Danielle's comment that she just made, and perhaps Frank can weigh on in this as well. Amberley Village has tried unsuccessfully to get OPWC money for a street improvement project. And I'm just curious as to what you think the atmosphere will be moving forward in terms of competitiveness for projects. Obviously, we're all strained financially, so it's going to be difficult to have funds to do that. But from your knowledge of these programs, do communities typically not pursue capital improvements when the economy is struggling along? That's my question.
Boy, that's a great question. I think this is going to be an unsatisfactory answer, I think. I think it's going to be individual responses. I don't think there is one cookie cutter way to respond. Everybody is going to have to do a gut check. You know, unpopular decisions are going to have to be made. And it's not going to be comfortable. It's not going to be fun. I wish I had could bring some of the sunshine from outside into my talk. We don't have a ton of great news that way. Mike, do you want to weigh in on the competitiveness of OPWC? You have a good handle on that.
Mike, were you at OPWC in 2009, 2008, 2009?
Yes.
So what was the competition like then?
We were covering just a fraction of the need out there. Most of the other projects that fell below the cut line usually got deferred because there's no other funding resources out there. I've been working with a few clients, and that's the reason why the commission hasn't put out allocations, guidance, and they're waiting on the capital bill. The General Assembly could change the rules of the game when they have the can open. So let's get the rules. Let's have the districts reconvene. It's tough to write an OPWC application right now. I mean, it involves a little bit of grantsmanship, and until the districts finalize their methodology, how they're going to select projects in the next funding round usually changes from year to year. So I would be happy to work with you on that, Scott, when time comes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Appreciate that.
And Mike, you're talking about the district integrating committees and them developing their methodologies. You know, do you have any advice for communities or for our own internal staff about how we can talk to them about what the needs are, so that maybe they tweak the methodology to recognize that there's my dog, I'm so sorry, that they recognize that everybody is hurting right now, and maybe it's not the same criteria as before. There's some additional things in there.
I always recommended local government officials get involved. The district integrating committees. It's they tend to be, depending on which district you're in. Some of them have up to 28 members on that committee. But I would certainly, if you're not on committee, I would go to the integrating committee meeting where they're formulating their methodology. I know, having worked with District 2 quite a bit, CT was very involved in that process, from formulation of the methodology to the actual rating and ranking meeting. It was good, see we had a presence, in my former life when that was those meetings were taking place.
Danielle and Mike, something for consideration. I don't know how that's going to apply in Ohio, but I've been working with James in Tennessee, and at least on the federal side, it seems that a lot of communities are not applying for the federal programs. In fact, Tennessee DOT called our office to ask if we had communities that wanted to submit projects. So that might be something for our communities here to consider from the Ohio side, is that, under the circumstances, because of the way monies are and everything, some people aren't going to do it, but it might be an opportunity to grab a grant or a loan on a federal program that they might not normally, be eligible for.
I think that's a good point. And, you know, it really is a coin toss. Is it something that, you know, everybody assumes it's not going to be there, so nobody goes after it, so, you know, you should? Or is everybody going to go after it and it's really competitive? I think either way, the answer is be nimble, be prepared, and be as aggressive in your match as you possibly can. That's one thing that I've been kind of harping on for a couple of years. You know, the minimum requirements for grants are not the same thing as the competitive level of match for grants. So, you know, we definitely want to work with communities on that. Definitely want to work with you guys on funding strategies for the long term. And as much as I can be helpful in that regard, call the CRMs, call me, you know, want to help as much as we can. Thanks, Rich. That was a good point.
Any other questions, comments? Okay. Well, thanks again for tuning in. Thanks, Danielle, for stepping up today.
Yeah, actually, if you had gotten the announcement that said Jennifer Brown was going to be here, I apologize. I am not Jennifer Brown, but kind of a last minute switch was made there, and I'm covering that. But I'm in the same department, and I've met most of you guys, so hopefully a familiar face is a good stand-in for Jen. If you're like me, your best questions come about 5 minutes after you hang up the phone or after you get off these things. So if that's the case, email, call, smoke signals, whatever works for you.
We're at your disposal.
Really.
All right, thank you.